Okay guys, so this is going to be kind of an interesting video, a little bit different than usual. I am going to take a look here at a deck I am calling UB Bigs. Now, this is an interesting situation because usually in the videos, I say, hey, yeah, I'm writing this article, but in the article I say, here, if you want more detail, watch the videos. So this is going to be one where you kind of need a combination of both. In this video, I'm going to show you two versions of this deck, but if you really want to kind of understand why I'm doing this, you have to check out the article, and that again is at puremtgo.com. I do recommend you check it out. There's a lot of great stuff there to see on a regular basis. But so I had this, a little backstory. I had this idea. I wanted to work in blue-black control into kind of the package that is the Izzet Control deck, which uses the locust lands in order to use a lot of these big mana spells. Now I ran into a couple of issues with this, and the main thing, if you check out my video I titled, it's about the UB Thunderbigs. That was a deck that I came across while trying to put these together that had actually kept the Rolling Thunders in there. When I had first started messing around with this, I did not realize what an important part these prisms were, and they really are. Because your deck is running so much colorless mana in the Cloud Posts and the Glimmer Posts, even in this where I've thrown in 3 Evolving Wilds, that is land that does not produce color, so you really need these prisms in order to kind of switch the colorless land into something of color. And it's something that I did not realize until I had played without them, and then the deck just wasn't clicking, and I realized that if I put the prisms back in, they really were an important part of the deck. So this is the first version I came up with. Now, you're looking at my big problem with the deck was that it did not have Rolling Thunder as the finisher. So what that means is you have two choices. You either increase your creature base, or you come up with some other way to win the game. So this game, I didn't necessarily increase the creature base. You do run into a lot of Izzet's decks, if you can see this here, that do run the 9 creatures. I did make sure that I was definitely running the 2 Crusher package, though. And you can win this with the creatures, but it is not really going to be the total win condition here. Kind of the main focus I wanted in this one was just these 4 cards. So not just the Crushers, but also the Capsize as well. I have been on the wrong end of this many times, and I'm sure others have as well, of the Izzet Control deck when they get the posts into play and they start getting those Capsizes going every turn and really just mana screw you. And I really wanted to kind of use that as one of my big finishers. So, oh god, excuse me, choking. I do this a lot, huh? So in order to get this really going, I wanted to bring in the mystical teachings to search out those Capsizes. I said it's going to be kind of an integral part. Important. It will be an important part of this deck, as you do not have Rolling Thunder to finish. Now, mystical teaching works beautifully in these decks because of the fact that it does have the black in the flashback cost. It just naturally fits in blue-black. So another thing is you want to be running kind of heavy on the kill spells. A bit lighter if you checked out my Thunder Bigs deck. It is a bit lighter on the creature kill main deck than some versions could be. But I do like the Innocent Blood. It comes in as a cheap spell, kind of a replacement for the Thunderbolts and whatnot. You also have Echoing Decay, which I like to have at least one main deck for the matchups against the Storm and whatnot. To actually have that in your main deck gives you an advantage in game 1. Okay, not so much an advantage, but it at least increases your odds of being able to beat that deck game 1. Also bring in Agony Warp. I like this card as well. I've talked several times about the fact that it's bigger than the Echoing Decay. Gives you some options for that. Now there is perhaps a little too heavy, but there is a ton of draw spells. I really wanted to focus on that with this deck in order to get the Capsizes into hand, get those Crushers as fast as possible. You're running 4 of the Compulsive Research, 4 Preordains, and 1 Mysteries of the Deep. Now, you really could mess around with this, and if I was going to make a much more serious attempt in playtesting to get this even as competitive as possible, I probably would cut down the amount of spells that I had as far as draw. Maybe just take out a Compulsive Research or 2. So you also see we have the 4 Mull Drifters, of course, and 3 Seagate Oracles will allow us to just kind of search out as fast as possible. So let's take a quick look at the sideboard. The choices are going to start to feel the same to you with all these decks, and they really are. Echoing Decays to bring in for the aggro decks. Also good for the Storm matchup. Hydroblast is good for the Izzet Control because it allows you to stop the Thunder. You get the negates in there well for all the control matchups. Crypt Rats are there, Doomblades. And this is one I've recently started adding to these matchups. Steel Sabotage. It's a 1 cost. It's like Hydroblast. It's like Pyroblast. It gives you the option to counter an artifact or to return the artifact to its owner's hand. Now, it would be more like the Hydroblast, Pyroblast versions if it allowed you to destroy the artifact for a blue. But I guess they felt that, and it probably is too overpowered for what it is. But it's still a great card, a 1 cost for the Affinity matchup to bring in and at least slow that down somewhat. You also have Innocent Blood. Affinity is kind of a tough matchup to win in control decks because it is so fast, and the aggro on it has such big creatures that you can't deal with it necessarily easily through things like Lightning Bolt and whatnot. But you have options with Innocent Blood to get early kills off. Steel Sabotage will allow you an early counterspell. So I kind of have liked that and started using it in sideboard slots in order to kind of even up that matchup. So now I will make mention here that I am going to showcase 2 games attached to this video. I did record those separately just so I can do this up, but I will be showing you 2 games, and those 2 games will be using this deck version. I feel it was perhaps the stronger of the 2 decks I'm going to show you here. It had kind of the better matchup if you wanted to kind of tinker around, tighten up the bolts a little more. This would definitely be the one to look at. So now bear with me right here. You're going to kind of get a quick wait. I do go through, let's load this other deck. I do go through and I actually organize these cards so they look all pretty for you guys on screen. But this time around, because I am showing you 2 uncut, I am just going to kind of combine these with the converted mana costs. So you see here, bear with me, hopefully you can see this better. You do have the Cloud Post packages are here. I did bring in the grottos because I like those in addition to the prisms to find my color choices. Upon playing this a few more times, I probably would switch these out for Terramorphics. I think it would be a better choice. This deck also brings in heavier on the creature kill. You see 3 Agony Warps, 3 Doomblades, 2 Echoing Decays. I have an Exclude, I have some Soul Manipulation, and these are really, they're one-ofs, but they're in there really for the teachings to be able to size those out, pull those out. Now I am still running 2 Crushers. I think this is a great thing. I talked about 2 ways to kind of make up for the missing of Thunder, and this way it was more of a creature focus. Now it is only running 1 additional creature, 10 as opposed to 9, but I am still running 2 Crushers because I think that is really a strong win condition for this deck. And my other thing was, instead of replacing the damage done with the Rolling Thunder, I could bring in Crypt Rats and use these to do that damage that I needed. Now the trick with these, it does do it to all creatures and all players, so you can have the Crypt Rats on the field and use them as like a burn spell off their little 1/1 bodies. The trick to these is the fact that, let me enlarge this here, that you have to pay X as only black mana. So you see right here that may look a little confusing. You're like, wait, you only have 5 swamps. Well, yeah, but I did in this case bring in the grottos to help with that. I did have 4 prisms to kind of, you will be able to cycle these colorless lands or blue mana into extra black land. Still, if you look at that at best, you're going to be able to do 12 damage off a rat. That's your optimal 12 damage per rat. So the additional damage will have to come from elsewhere. Multiple rats, them doing self-inflicted damage, whatever. But at most, this deck will be able to do is 12 damage off a rat. There's no sideboard also because like I said, I just wanted to kind of showcase the other option for this. But on the probes, I think this is a fantastic card for the UB Bigs decks. It allows you to kick this and allow for discard as well as draw. Control is great in the blue, but kind of the big thing I love about the blue-black control is the fact that you have the option to discard, or force your opponent to discard. You know what I was talking about. In addition to all the counter spells that you can get going on. Also, I really wanted to bring the wall. I think this is a great one-of card. Get some tricks back. Soul Manipulation allows you to bring some back. Like I said, you really had more of a focus here on bringing back the creatures and using them as kind of the focus base here. I think this deck also has some advantages to it, some possibilities. probably if you were looking for, if you know your own meta environment, you know it's going to be heavier on the aggro, you would bring something like this, where you have 3 Crypt Rats main deck, you have 2 creature-specific counter spells main deck, as well as this selection of kill spells. If you knew if you had more of a control-based playing environment, there we go, you would be able to use kind of the other deck to really get those capsizes going, and you would probably have a better match against like the Izzet Control and whatnot. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking of taking one of these decks and playing around with it, making some changes. There are advantages to each. The sideboards would pretty much be the same for either one. And those you, of course, would change based on your playing environment as well. But we're going to take a look here in a second at a couple of these games. And remember, those would be using the first deck. And also, again, going to plug the article on puremtgo.com to really kind of understand all this blue-black confusion in Pauper. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this game right here, and again, find ourselves in the situation without a replay. So we're going to have to wing it, and you're going to have to just apologize, I'm going to have to apologize, and you're going to have to deal with the fact that there may be a couple flaws in my commentary. I kind of run a million miles a minute, so we'll just hope that you can understand. This was kind of an interesting hand. I actually really love this hand. I had 3 Cloud Posts, and there's nothing you want more in this deck than to have Cloud Posts. I also have the ability to get a turn 2 Prism. You do Cloud Post into Prism, with a following Prism the next turn, or the Mull Drifters even off the mana you have available to you. So I was pretty happy to see this hand. Like I said, I think it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of potential. You're sitting on the capsize as well, so you can really play around with that and get the discard, or sorry, the bounce going. Thinking ahead before I talk. My opponent is playing red-black. He will, I find, be playing the discard version. You see here, he gets a duress off real early. And actually chooses the Prism. I thought he would have gone for the capsize, but he decided to go for the Prism instead. I probably would not have made that choice, but I still have the available option to get a turn 2 Prism into play. So now we top off with Glimmer Post. We do keep in mind that he left off seeing my hand at Evolving Wild, so he does not know about the Glimmer Post. That's fantastic, especially when you're sitting on this many Cloud Posts in hand to start with. Having the Prism in place still allows me to get the early Mull Drifter off. And you expect when you're seeing red-black to hit the turn 3 Blightning, which we will actually see. So I have a lot of choices here. Since I'm sitting on so much land, that is really the first choice to get rid of. Now, I play here that I regretted after doing so. I decided to get rid of the capsize instead of the Evolving Wilds. Now, I think if this was perhaps a more competitive deck, I would not have made this choice, but for this matchup being what it was, I decided to get rid of the Evolving Wilds. So we put the Cloud Posts into play, and I'm able to tap these and siphon land into my Prism in order to get the Mull Drifter into play. It's pretty fantastic to be able to actually play a Mull Drifter on turn 3 as opposed to just evoking it. So now we also see that I finally got a colored land in the swamp. I have the Innocent Blood available to me if he decides to play a creature. Evolving Wilds will provide me with an outlet to find another blue. At the point in time when I discarded the capsize, the only thing that really can be said for that is that I needed 2 blue. I only had 1 in play, and I had to wait at least 1 turn before getting it, because I would have to sacrifice the Evolving Wilds to find that island. So my opponent hits me with Lava Spike, clearly running a bit of burn alongside his discard package. So this time around I put the Glimmer Post into play. Since he is playing burn, I really wanted to get my life up, so I had a little bit of a safe boundary. Other than that, my play probably would have been Wilds if he was not playing burn, to allow me to find that second blue mana that I really wanted. But for now, I'm more than happy to be able to siphon that land through the Prism and get that Seagate Oracle into play. So we see I have the capsize, I have the research in hand, so in reveal, so I can put the capsize into hand. And kind of makes up for my discarding the one earlier, is the fact that I did find a second one, so I have the option to use that later on, and now I want to get the second blue as fast as possible so I can start abusing this many Locust lands as possible and capsizing on his spells, I'm really struggling here, capsize on his lands as soon as possible. So Terminate comes down in response to my attacking with the Mull Drifter, kind of a good play, an expected play. Another card that I kind of missed that I think Black-Red has a great opportunity to play some good cards in the Terminate and the Blightning, but it really doesn't see any competitive play because it can't quite hold its own. But more Lightning Bolt, more burn spells, and that's, like I said, one of the reasons I really wanted to get the Glimmer Post into play as soon as possible, so that I could get that life gain going and not have to worry so much about how low my life was. So you see here, cracking the wilds, getting the land, and I am able to get the second Oracle into play again. Thank you, Prism. So I reveal the Crusher and the Preordained. Preordained's nice to have in the early game, but because my mana, as you see, has been ramped so fast, let me move this. There we go. Because my mana has been ramped so fast, I can get the Crusher into play really fast. And he does have the option to kill it with Terminate. We see that he's actually got a kill spell instead of a -/ spell. But, at the very least, it's going to eat up that kill spell. He is only sitting with 2 cards in hand currently, so it kind of decreases the chance that he has the answer for the Crusher. But I can put the Crusher into play by just tapping 2 Cloud Posts. You see here will give me the 8 land. I have the 4 locuses. Loci? Whatever. I have the 4 locust lands. How about that? And I can get that Crusher into play. Now, he doesn't concede right away, so I'm assuming he had a kill spell for it. Usually, you're playing an opponent and the Crushers come down, they will concede if they have no ready answer, and he does have the Doomblade. But I do have an option here. You see I left the mana open, and because the Cloud Post taps for 4, I am able to cast the Capsize with Buyback, targeting my own Crusher and preventing the Doomblade from hitting it. And as you see here, he will concede. You do run into that situation a lot, where if they do not have an answer for the Crusher, they will just concede. You look at it on my turn, he's got 1 card in hand. I'm guessing it is not a kill spell, perhaps a burn spell. But anyways, I will be able to attack with the Crusher. He's sitting on only 5 lands and will be forced to sacrifice 2, not having anything else, any other permanents on the field. But this is, just a good example of how the mana can ramp up. This is really, a fantastic start to have 3 Cloud Posts in the opening hand, and honestly wish it would come about more often with these decks. Okay, so moving into the next game. This is another great hand. I love having Cloud Posts. The more the merrier. I do have the blue mana as well, so I can get that Muldrifter off as soon as possible. Echoing Decay is great. Crusher's great. I'm really looking for some black mana to get those going. So now my opponent, turn 1. This is a pretty LOL game, as I like to say. And I am probably going to keep it separate and post it up as well, just because it was so funny. My opponent gets down Ancient Springs, and the first thing that is going to happen with Ancient Springs is that you are facing a Storm deck. Now, whether the focus of the Storm deck is Empty the Warrens or Grape Shot, it really doesn't matter. You're going to get Storm. Now, if it is Warrens, and I'm praying to God at this point in time that it is Warrens, I do have Echoing Decay. And you just hope to God he does not get the Bushwhacker and cannot give all his little goblins haste. Now you see the big problem though is that I am missing black mana, so my biggest thing is I really need to hit that black mana as soon as possible. My opponent probably is not going to be able to go off on turn 2 because he is running this mana base that the tapped lands he will not have the choice, which he doesn't. So I'm really kind of hoping that I can get something going. So I use the island, I cast the Preordained, like I said, kind of searching out for a swamp here. What happened there? Well, I don't know what happened to the replay. It didn't really reveal the cards that I had to scry. But I did choose to put them on top. You'll see one of them was Cloud Post, the other was a Prism. So I didn't find the swamp, but I can with the Prism get it into play. Now I could have put the Prism on top and drawn it, gotten into play next turn, but by getting the Cloud Post out, I have the mana available to play it right away. And my opponent is going to go off on this turn. This is turn 3, just to give you an idea of how fast they can get this going. This is turn 3, you'll see here. Dark Rituals, Lotus Petals come down, drawing cards, getting the mana going. And at this point in time, like I said, you're pretty much hoping. I know I have the answer, because with the Preordain, I did see the Prism. You did have the option there as well. You could have evoked the Muldrifter. If you had played, the Glimmer Post, or even the island, you would have been able to evoke the Muldrifter and drawn 2 cards. I kind of liked the Preordain as the play there because it allows you to look at those top 2 cards, see if there's an answer, and if there isn't, you can put them at the bottom. If I drew 2 lands, if I were going to draw 2 lands that were not going to be helpful, I could have chucked those to the bottom of my deck and at least increase the odds that Next time around, it would not happen that way, and when I did draw that card, it would be the answer I needed. So he's still playing Sphere, Ponders, Mana Ramp, Mana Ramp, Mana Ramp. It's pretty boring to get this going. You can't see it, but I commented on how much I love playing Solitaire. You see how many minutes it's taken for him to just cast all these things. And here we go. He's getting the Empty the Warrens off. Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So he was able to cast that 16 times. That will bring you to... Oh god, am I going to do math? No, I'm not even going to do the math. Let's just say it's going to kill you. He has one card in hand. He's got 4 mana in his mana pool plus a Petal. So if he has the Bushwhacker, it is the game, but he plays instead the Irrigation Ditch. Now, I know this game is over because I now have the Prism. I will draw the Prism on my turn. I put that into play, and I still have the mana available thanks to the double mana of Cloud Posts. And I actually drew a swamp on this one, but I have the mana available. I can tap the Cloud Post, not waste an island, not that it matters, and play Echoing Decay, targeting one of the goblins. You see there, he has nothing going. He's got all his cards in the graveyard. He's got no cards in hand, no mana available except for a Lotus Petal. That was just, it was over. Now I play Glimmer Post just to add a little icing to the cake, so that if he does continue to play this, I will have the ability to put the Crusher out on my next turn. Just so you know, that would have been a... let's see, what turn would that... For me, it would be turn 5. I would be able to get the Crusher out, which is not, overpowered, but it's pretty damn fantastic, if you ask me. So my opponent, when you face Storm in this situation, if you manage to get the Echoing Decay off and kill all their goblins, they've emptied their hand, they've already gone through about 20 cards in their deck, they will just concede. The game is over, there's really nothing they can do. It would take them a long while in order to be able to rebuild their entire hand, rebuild the engine, the cards they need to get that Storm going and get the amount of creatures that they need to finish me off. You see here, I will have the opportunity to put the Crusher into play. He's being a pretty good sport. He hasn't conceded up to this point, even though we both know this game is over. He does draw into another card and then decides to concede. Like I said, there really is no answer for this game. Once you get that Echoing Decay off, it's game over.